to making some dumplings. So today we are going to be making Culurgiones, which is a stuffed pasta from Sardinia. It's super simple in terms of filling and how it's served, just like a basic tomato sauce. The most complicated part about this pasta is shaping it. It's very complicated. It's not for the faint of heart. It is probably one of the most difficult folding techniques that you can do. And hopefully I'll be able to show that to you today and simplify it. So to start off, what we're going to do is we're going to be making the dough. The dough is 00 flour mixed with semolina flour. So semolina flour is durum wheat. It's a little bit grittier than just your all-purpose regular flour. So I have 150 grams of both mixed in here. What I'm going to do is just going to pour it onto the counter here. I'm going to make a well using your bowl, and then we're just going to pour water directly in there. But before I pour my water in there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to salt the water. So a couple good pinches of salt in there. Warm water is best just because it helps increase the rate of hydration a little bit better, but not hot water. You don't want boiling water. So just dissolve your salt, and then you're just going to pour it into that well you created. Using your fork, you're just going to gently stir the flour and the water together. Take your time, just because if you compromise the walls of your well, then your water goes spilling everywhere, and then you don't know your rates of hydration anymore. You can also do this in the bowl. I'm just doing it this way just because everyone expects pasta to be made in this manner. It's the romanticized version of making. All right, so you can see that I formed a thick paste now. I don't really have to worry about the structure of my well anymore. We're just gonna combine everything together at this point. You can see I'm not getting my hands in there yet. I just wanna cover the majority of this paste basically that we made with flour before I get in there with my hands. I will switch over to a bench scraper right now though. Bench scraper. Very handy tool whenever working with dough. Because I weighed out all my ingredients, there's no guessing game here, right? So everything gets incorporated because we're looking for an exact percentage of hydration. If you're making this in Italy or a high humidity location, you can stick to 50% hydration, but here in Canada, also it's still winter, humidity levels are quite low, so you just want to bump up the amount of water. So that's why I'm using 160 grams instead of 150 grams for 300 grams of flour. So if you're unfamiliar with using semolina pasta, it's going to feel super gritty at first. But just trust the process. You just knead it and work it just like how you would a regular dough. And once it's fully hydrated, that dough becomes super soft and pliable. So with all these dry bits here, I'm going to collect it and start kneading. So you want to establish a kneading pattern. You're never going to flip your ball of dough over. It's always going to remain in contact with the surface. And you're just rotating and folding and pressing. And you see all the kneads are centered on top of your dough. And kneading isn't based off time, it's just based off results, right? We're looking to achieve a nice smooth ball of dough with everything incorporated. So at this point in the kneading process, you can press too hard. If you press too hard, you can see tears in your dough. So you just kind of want to do a gentle rolling motion at this point when your dough comes together to form a ball. So during your kneading process, your ball of dough is going to get extremely firm, and that's because your gluten is forming and connecting with other strands of gluten, creating a strong network. That's why it's gonna feel really firm. So whenever you get tired, that's fine. Sometimes your arms get tired if you don't need a lot. What you can do is you can give the dough a rest as well as yourself a rest, just as long as you cover it with a piece of plastic wrap or a moist towel, just so your dough doesn't dry out. Give it 5 minutes and then come back and you'll see that it's softened up quite a bit, and you can just knead it a couple more times and then it'll be beautiful and smooth. All right, so for whatever reason, if your ball of dough feels a little bit dry, it's almost impossible to introduce moisture to it. You can't just pour water in your dough and hopefully it absorbs. So the only thing you can do is wet your hands and continue kneading with wet hands, and you can do that as many times as you need to hydrate your dough. All right, so once your dough comes together, you're just gonna let it rest and then we will roll it out. But in the meantime, what we can do is we can focus on the filling. All right, so to make the filling, you just need some mashed potatoes. So what I like to do is I like to steam my potatoes because it allows me to peel the potatoes before cooking them. Because if you boil peeled potatoes, then they're gonna absorb a lot of water and you don't want watery potatoes essentially. Because you have to mash potatoes while they're hot, so you don't have to wrangle and peel hot potatoes and then mash them. So steaming is my preferred method. And I broke my potato ricer a while ago and I haven't replaced it because I just don't want a mono tool, so I figured out this other way to get really nice smooth mashed potatoes. It's using something that everyone has in their kitchen already. So it's just a strainer, and then you're just gonna pass the potatoes through the strainer and it'll give you super nice and smooth potatoes that aren't lumpy. But you have to do this while the potatoes are hot. You cannot do it while they are cold. I think this would be like equivalent to pierogies of Italy. Potato filling stuffed in a wrapper. So you can see nice, smooth, not lumpy potatoes coming through. Takes a little bit more time than a potato ricer, but again, you just don't want mono tools in your kitchen. They take up a lot of room and it can only be used for one thing. Okay, so once you finally mash your potatoes, we're gonna season it now. So just some nice salt. I like to use kosher salt. And then pecorino. Has to be pecorino. You can't use Parmesan for this recipe. And you want it grated pretty finely. And ingredients like cheese, you just measure with your heart. But if you want to measure for about a pound of potatoes, roughly like half a cup. So pecorino is made from sheep's milk. Unlike Parmesan, which is made out of cow's milk. All right, I think that's a good amount of cheese. The next ingredient that we need to add is mint. So we just need to pluck some leaves off, and then we're going to finely chop the mint. And again, it's one of those ingredients that you don't have to do an exact measurement on. If you don't enjoy the flavor of mint, maybe just leave it out. But if you like it, you can add more. A good handful of mint. Roughly roll up the leaves. So have a fine chiffonade here. I'm just going to roughly chop that. in a bowl. And some people like to add garlic and olive oil to this recipe as well. I think I'm going to forego it and throw those ingredients into my tomato sauce instead. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to season this with some pepper. And then we're going to mix it up really well. Alright, just going to mix this all together. Because everything here is cooked or safe to eat raw. Just give it a taste and you can adjust seasoning if necessary. I'm just going to actually do it with my hands. Alright, just going to give this a taste. Could use more salt. And a touch more pepper. Alright, so that's it for the filling. Super simple to throw together. The hardest part is boiling your potatoes or steaming your potatoes and waiting. Alright, so our dough has been sufficiently resting now and our filling is already made. We are ready to start forming some culurgiones. So I've dusted my work area with some flour, just because, you know, you don't want it to stick. What we're going to do, I'm going to gently roll this out, and I'm going to divide my dough in half. I'm going to cheat today and use a automatic pasta roller. Saves you a lot of time. And dough that you're not working with, you just want to cover it so it doesn't dry out. I just want to roll this out so it's thin enough to go through the thickest setting of my pasta machine. That should be okay. All right. Pretty thin. I'm just gonna inspect my sheet, just see if it's thin enough. Yes, pretty happy with that. And now we're gonna cut rounds out of it. You can make these whatever size you want, but just keep it consistent. I'm doing 3.5 inches today. Cut little rounds out of it. A lot of this. And you can combine this back together and roll it out again. It just needs to be rested before you put it through the machine again. All right, now to my favorite part. I fully self-taught myself this shape. I actually learned this shape before I even knew this pasta existed, so it was a bonus after I knew that this specific folding technique went with this shape. So some potato filling. If you have extra that comes out, it'll just come out. So you start off on one side. I like to say that I'm making 2 little horns, and then you can combine the horns together. With this type of folding, you have to really pinch hard. And then you kind of flip it up and you get these 2 flaps on the side. You connect that to your one horn that you created. Basically, you keep making 2 flaps, connecting it, forming a horn, and you just keep with that same pattern until you run out of room. And then the extra dough, you just pinch it off. If done correctly, this is the shape that you get here. So it's kind of like a zippered shape. So we're just gonna repeat that until we run out of filling. So this shape definitely requires a little bit of practice. There's some nuance to it for sure. When I first did the shape, I'm like, it was close enough, but there was, my little zipper weren't lined up. So I just kept practicing. Got a nice pot of boiling water here, and we are ready to boil our Culurgiones. So make sure rolling boil. We're just gonna plop a few in there. I also have my tomato sauce ready to go here too. I just made a really simple garlic, tomato passata, white wine, and then just seasoned salt and pepper, and my secret ingredient, a touch of sugar. So once these are floating, I will start plating my sauce because I like the tomato sauce at the bottom, and then I like to put them across. You can plate them however you want, up to you. But typically, Culurgiones is not tossed into the sauce. All right, those are almost ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put tomato sauce base at the bottom of my plate. All right, so you can see that the Culurgiones are all floating now. They are ready to go. So I have dead hands, so I'm going to just handle them. I like to put them in a straight line, but again, it's just, you know, your own artistic expression, however you'd like to plate these bad boys up. I think 4 is a good number there. And then how I'm going to finish it is just going to finish with a little bit more pecorino cheese on top. And although we have mint in the filling, I'm actually going to garnish with some fresh basil here. Just the leaves. All right, so let's give this a taste. I just want to show you a shot of what it looks like in the center there. Our beautiful potato, mint, and pecorino in there. Got a piece of basil. Gonna get a nice scoop of the sauce. Just super simple. Nice flavors. Mint, which is kind of unexpected inside of a pasta, but it actually works really well. So thanks for joining me today and making Culurgiones. Hopefully you take a crack at this too. Don't worry about them being perfect, just make sure they're tightly sealed.
Do another one if you want.
Thanks for hanging out with me to make Culurgiones. I hope you attempt to make them sometime.